ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ
Pushpinder ji, so we are going to have a conversation about symbology and leadership, and there are particular symbols that I'm going to ask us to, we're going to just discuss them and see in our own personal lives what these symbols mean to us. First of all, I'll share what these symbols mean to me, then I'll ask you what these symbols mean to you in your kind of professional work. So the first symbol is Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and for me this is a statue of him erected in Lahore, where he governed over Sikhs, Muslims, Christians and Hindus, and he was actually invited to Lahore to be the Maharaja, for the Muslims invited him. So for me, the statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh represents kinship, because he used Singh as his title in accordance with Guru Gobind Singh Ji's, him bestowing that title upon us. So when I see leaders with the title Singh, I feel a kind of kinship, I feel an affinity with them. So it represents affinity and kinship for me. And then Ekamkar, the symbol of oneness. And it reminds me that all of life is interconnected, not only human life, but also animal life, plant life, life in general. It's all kind of like an interwoven connectedness of energy that is, there is no separation, basically. And then the third image of our sixth Guru, Hargobind Ji, he was able to negotiate the release of 52 Hindu Maharajas. And that represents to me, it symbolizes humanitarianism, because he wasn't only negotiating for his own release, he was negotiating not only for the release of other Sikhs, he was negotiating for the release of Maharajas who were of a different faith. But nevertheless, these were people who had been imprisoned unfairly, and therefore he didn't kind of think, I'm only going to be an advocate for those who are similar to me. So for me, in terms of leadership, these concepts of kinship and oneness are integral in leadership, that we need to have those strong connections of relationship with those that we want to serve, and at the same time see the bigger picture of oneness with everyone. So for you, what do these symbols represent for you?
Beautiful thoughts you expressed in these. But I want to start with Ekonkar first. It does mean oneness, regardless of, whether you are a leader, whether you're a follower, whether you're any community or anyone, the oneness of the creator and oneness of the creation that just binds us all together. And what that should do, what that needs to bring out is the love, the fairness, the mutual respect for all of us. I think if you think of a leader, if you don't have any one of those, you would be, hard pressed to, make anybody follow you. So I think Ekonkar is probably one of the most significant, most powerful symbols, I would say, to me is. If you look at Guru Hargobind Ji, I think what comes to my mind is compassion. He had a lot of that, and I think as a human, as a professional, as a leader, you need to have compassion where you feel for others, where you know where they are coming from. And once they know that you have compassion, you won't be revengeful. You won't be, take things out on others. You won't be undercutting them. You will not do anything wrong. And then going back to Maharaja, I think for sure, he had royalty, which, you know, Sikhs have the royalty of the spirit. But he also had ruled with justice in his mind. He had love for his folks. And I think, again, he wasn't revengeful. He was not, you know, even though there were so many atrocities committed on Sikhs by Islamic faith leaders, he did not take any revenge on them. He gave them good positions in this. So I think he was very encompassing in that sense. And he had a bigger picture, like you said, in his mind, in his head, in his thoughts. And that's why he became one of the best rulers of India, who created this golden age, all because of he loved his people. He was not revengeful, and he had this basic human values, humility, of all things, humility. You know, he did not wear a crown, and he called Sarkar-e Khalsa. He did not start a coin as a name in his name. So he had a lot of love for Guru, and devotion, dedication, and humility.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is that with this oneness and with kinship, both of us live away from the Punjab. You live in California and I live in the UK. And so we're both in environments where the majority of people that we live and work with are probably not going to be exactly similar to us in terms of ethnicity, in terms of the language they speak, in terms of what the food they eat. So we can embrace, because we've been taught to embrace our communities, or those we live with, those we work with. But in terms of the others, seeing us as one with them, even though we are different, that can be a skill that requires, it's a more challenging thing, isn't it? To be accepted as one with the others, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can relate my personal experiences when I didn't speak English when I came to US. Of course, I didn't dress up like anything, and I don't look like anybody who was around here. And I'm talking about 35 years ago, 38 years ago. And I did not fit in. I did not feel I had any of the qualities to fit in. And I had this low self-esteem because I didn't have English, for number one, to communicate. And I think how I came about is when you talk to your neighbors, when you meet with your peers, when you meet with the other students in university, when you meet with your colleagues, you feel we all share the same feelings. You know, when we smile, it's a universal language. When I'm crying, that's a universal language. When I'm sad, when I'm upset, those are universal languages. You know, we all understand, we all humans share the same feelings. So no matter who I'm looking at, regardless of the skin color, hair color, or ethnicity or language, I know she's just like I am. I know what hurts her. I know what makes her happy. I know she's a caring mother, that she wants her children to well. I know she, you know, has aspirations to buy that purse or get that stuff, or, you know, rise in her profession. So I think feeling the oneness, going back to oneness. Yes, we are born in different places. You and I, we are meeting for the first time, but we have this affinity. Because I know you have this compassion in your mind. You want to help others with whatever experiences you have had, you know, share those. Look, I am a person just like you, and this is what it means to me. And, you know, maybe I will benefit from your thoughts, you know, like you express, you know, kinship from Maharaja, which I didn't think of. So we expand each other's horizons when we think we are just like each other.
Yeah, fabulous. You have reminded me of my parents. When we came to the UK back in the 60s, neither of my parents spoke English. I was
Yeah.
little, I was very little, and yeah, even though they didn't speak English, they had very strong relationships with our neighbors, so strong that the neighbors would always give us Christmas presents. They had Christmas presents for the whole family, and then when my father went to India for a holiday, he said, you know, one of our neighbors, Margaret, had asked him to get a handbag for her, and I said, but you don't speak English. How does she? How was she able to? You know, to communicate with you that she wanted a handbag from India? And you know, these, so it's to do with the heart, isn't it? You know, we communicate with our heart. And
Absolutely.
yeah, okay, brilliant examples. Well, thank you very much. Let's continue then to another set of symbols that I'll tell you what my thoughts are on them, and again, let me see what your thoughts are on these as well. So the first image is of Sevan and Langar. You know, that symbolizes so much more than the overt kind of thing of like going to the Gurdwara and having Langar together. The Langar, it symbolized, Guru Nanak Dev Ji created this tradition for us. And I think one of the social kind of norms that he broke in advocating that people sit together regardless of their caste, regardless of their wealth, regardless of their rank or their status. It's creating a tradition of equality, that just because you are rich, you don't need to be eating in better, using better utensils than the person who can only afford to eat in a steel plate, for example. So it breaks down those norms of ranks and hierarchies. And then when we look at Guru Gobind Singh Ji on the horse, we know that they were living in a context where they had a lot of struggles, and all the followers of Guru Nanak, well, a lot of the followers of Guru Nanak, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, rode horses because they had to fight in battles. And you know that for people of the lower caste, it was forbidden for them to ride on horses. You had to be from the ruling class. You had to be one of the elite to have the privilege of riding a horse. So the very kind of act of, you know, enabling his followers to ride on horses, that also broke the traditional norms, the status quo, and it was an act of defiance. It's like, well, we will ride horses because we are sovereign. And then we've got Mai Pago, who led the 40 warriors back into battle. And we don't traditionally think of women as being warriors and leaders, especially not in battles. And yet she broke through that norm, that kind of oppression of societal norms of like, women can't do this, and only people of the higher caste can ride horses or eat in langar, you know, with equally and whatever. So here, in terms of leadership, we've got very contrasting symbolisms. Like, one is of egalitarianism, and in contrast, we've got the contrast to that is like the privilege to rise above our oppression, to rise above our station for freedom, to be to be independent, basically, and to determine our own destinies. So what are your thoughts on these symbols?
Well, we all know what langar means. To me, if I took it out of context of Sikhi, I would say feed the soul, basically. You know, you reach the heart through stomach. And there are so many people who are hungry, not just for food, but for so much. They have so many needs for any kind of support, emotional support, financial support, social support, any kind of support. I think recently we Sikhs in COVID times, we did oxygen langar. And that's to save the human body, which is suffering, which can't breathe, right? So langar is just not hot food. Langar is sharing your time, sharing your wisdom, sharing your resources in any way and form that we can to take care of fellow human beings with whom we are so much alike. So I think that's what langar would mean to me, that as a leader, as a Sikh, you would go out of your way to find the needs, whatever they might be, and see if you can meet them. When I look at Guru Gobind Singh Ji, you're a warrior, right? He's a warrior. He is majestic, he's magnificent, he's bold and brave and handsome, and and he's a warrior. So tame the hawk, right? He didn't do convenient things. He took on the fiercest of the opposing power, and he tamed it, and had grace at the same time. And those things, I think, when you combine grace and compassion and with royalty, not of state, but within of your thoughts, of your power, of what you can think of, what you can accomplish, that will take you far. And my pago, courage. And you need to have the courage to break the mold. You might be canned in some ways. Society will do that to you. Can you put you in a place, but break out of those molds when you need to, and move the world forward.
And the thing is, you see, that this is like these traditions were started like hundreds of years ago. So Langar, Guru Nanak Dev Ji started that more than 500 years ago. And yet, because in those times there was great inequality. And now that we live in the West, you live in California, I live in the UK, and we still see these inequalities. We still get put in our box. And sometimes I feel, I grew up in England, and I feel I can empathize with people from the so-called lower caste in India. I can empathize with them because sometimes we get treated that way here, living in the West. Those of us who, have come here from different countries, we're not treated equally. We can be more qualified, more experienced, and yet we are being kind of governed by those who are less experienced, less qualified than us. And so that kind of makes me empathize with the people of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time, who he was trying to break the mold. And it's like, it feels as though, well, we're still kind of like fighting against those struggles of inequalities, even now in different contexts.
Absolutely we are. And that's a great example. What can we share, what can we do to equalize those inequalities which we live through, which so many other communities live through, and not only in India but in the Western world. You're right, we ourselves don't have that. We have to be twice as good to get the same position. And yes, we are governed, we are managed by people who don't know half the things. You're right, it can happen.
So it's refreshing to know that it happens all over. It happens all over. It's just different contexts, different people, but it sometimes feels as though the oppressive kind of colonialism, it continues in different forms.
I think that's the human nature in some ways, to feel better. That's the ego. That's what it does to you. You want to feel better no matter how. So you will do something or the other to put the other person down, no matter subtly, no matter sophisticated ways or crude ways. So that's our, desire to, I am better than you. That's all the competition. That's the, you want to stand out. The whole fashion industry does that. I am prettier than you, do this pickup and you'll be beautiful more than who you are. So I think this is what is ingrained in us, that I have to be better than the next person, other person. And it works on different levels, not just at a personal level.
It's quite complex as well, isn't it?
It is.
Whole concept of beauty. There's a lot of politics in in that whole concept of beauty.
Yeah.
There, that
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
be considered beautiful, you have to have hair that looks like this, you have to have eyes that look like that, and a nose
Yes.
like this. And yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I feel so much relieved now that I'm at an age where I couldn't care less what I look like. You like me for who I am, what I do, what I have to contribute, not what I look like.
yeah. But here, that in terms of oppression, at any age we can be oppressed, because even those, like back in the Punjab, I suppose everywhere now, like in the past, those who were elders were used to be respected. They're not respected anymore, not in the way they were when I was a young child. When I was a young child, I could never speak back to my Taya, for example, or my Masi or my Mama. They were the same as my father. But nowadays, they're not considered that way at all. So we've, in a way, our own minds have become kind of, I think, more sort of limited, more, they're not all embracing. They don't, we don't kind of empathize with even our extended family, let alone our community, let alone our society. It just, that circle of empathy can get narrower and narrower.
I think that, we have the same thing, we experience the same relationship chaos in our families, and it's universal deterioration, if I may say so. I think there is so much stress, so much anguish, so much insecurity built into our lifestyles now, all in this rat race. And who has time to talk to anybody? Who has time to respect or listen to somebody or follow the advice or ask for advice, right? So, the same way when we grew up, our parents decided what we will do, what we will wear, what we will study, everything. And now the kids just say, what do you know, mom? What do you know? You didn't grow up here. You don't know the challenges I face here, and which I don't. So I think that we have short circuits in some ways because of the stresses that we constantly, day in and day out, live through. And it's doubly on our children, who have to keep their identity. My son has to wear turban and he has long beard, and yeah, he walks tall and is very proud, but I can't belittle the courage he needs to have to be himself. Like you were saying, you and I at our age even feel there's discrimination outside. And when he walks as a Sikh outside, what do people who don't know that he's a Supreme Court attorney think about him? We don't know what they talk about him, right? Nobody knows he's a Harvard Law School graduate. It's not written on his face. But so those are the stresses, I think, they come into their beings. And then they, somewhere they break down, and somewhere those relationships don't matter anymore because we don't understand those issues and those challenges. And I think, we need to calm each other down, and we not need to bring stress on each other, and empathize. I think the biggest key would be empathize. I know your struggle because I have lived through that, it's not, I'm not sympathizing, but I know what the grief is, what the challenge is, what the stress is, and how difficult it can be.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you that it's the empathy that we need to have with those whose experiences we may never share, because you haven't lived the experiences of your son, but yet you empathize because you care enough about him to empathize with that.
Exactly.
When we stop empathizing, we alienate people when we stop empathizing.
Absolutely. When, I'm just going to give you a small example. I don't know how much time we have. My parents were alive, and one of my friends, her father died. And so here I am consoling her. Oh, it's okay. He lived good life, you enjoyed him for 40 years, whatever, right? When my father passed, the sky fell. There's darkness out, and I didn't know I could exist in this world. And ever since then, it's been 22 years. Ever since then, I have not been able to say to a person who has lost someone dear that it was a life well lived, that it's okay. All I can do is hug you and say, I'm sorry.
Mm.
I don't know what your loss feels like to you. I knew what it felt like to me. So I just say, I am sorry. And that's what I think is, you have to sometimes go through the experience to be, have that pain.
Mm.
And we don't have, fortunately, we don't have to live, but we can develop this compassion and empathy within us, that the pain can be severe for you. I don't know your pain, but yeah, I think that will be a very big asset to have for any person, leader or not.
That's right. And I think with when a leader fails to have empathy, it's not sustainable. That leadership position will not be sustainable. Yeah. Okay, let's continue then with the third set of symbols. This is the last set of symbols, the last three that we want to talk about. And here we've got Gurmukhi, that was formalized for us by Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Guru Angad Dev Ji. They created the Gurmukhi script based on the Landa script. And what fascinates me about this is the fact that it was innovative. They created a new script for us for the Gursikhs to transcribe Gurbani, rather than use Farsi, Sanskrit, Arabic. They knew those languages very well, but those languages were associated with the elite. The elite could afford to learn Arabic, Sanskrit, and Farsi, but the ordinary people, they had no script. Their Punjabi, their language was simply an oral language. And so they created something which was, it created a new identity. It supported a new identity for the Gursikhs. And then we have the Nishan Sahib, which for me symbolizes our heritage. It's our claim to be able to practice our way of life in the Gurdwaras according to our own values. And then the symbol of the Khanda, to me, the Khanda symbolizes action. So it's like activism, like making sure that we are acting righteously, the double-edged sword of justice and truth. Our actions are righteous and they're based on our spirit and also the material kind of outcomes that we're looking for. So what do these symbols mean to you in terms of leadership, in terms of innovation and our heritage and our activism? What, for us, what is the message of these symbols for us?
So Gurmukhi to me means that I can hear the Guru through those words. So it connects me, you called it innovation, but I feel it as a bridge over centuries, where Guru is talking and I can still hear him in his own words, in his own language. Translation doesn't do justice to Gurbani, for example. It also is part of an identity. So, when you are in a workplace, for example, and you have diversity, you want to honor people's heritage in that sense, people's bonds that they might have with their own culture, their own religion, their own way of life, for example. I think that's what I would take this in terms of being pragmatic, that I would like to know what connects you with your heritage, what connects you with your past, and how do I respect that? How do I honor that? And how do I not impede that? So many times the teachers in schools said, do not speak the other language, only speak English. That's the language you need to learn now. So we basically wrote off their heritage. And there are so many first and second generation children who do not speak their primary language anymore.
That's what I was told. When I came to England, I was only 6 years old, and there was only one other Sikh girl in the school, and I used to speak Punjabi with her because I couldn't speak English, and they wouldn't allow us to speak Punjabi with each other. They kept us separate so that we listened to each other. So I grew up with that.
And teachers are leaders for our students, for our families. We, Asian culture respects the teacher next to God, for example, right? So they carry a lot of power. So when a leader does something, says something, that carries a lot of power. Nishan Singh to me means welcome. To me, Nishan Sahib says, I'm here, I'm grounded, and you're welcome here, and you'll be taken care of, and you'll be safe, and you will be fed. You know, that's what where Nishan Sahib is, in Gurdwaras. And that's what happens. And you'll be at peace here. So if I was to apply it to leadership, I would say, be the Nishan Sahib. Be the person to whom somebody will come, who will be fed by you, not just the mouth, the stomach, but the heart, the soul. They will come to you to find comfort. They will come to find safety from you. You will not betray them. And the third khanda, I think khanda is probably very cutting edge. It's, you know, anything I say or do can be double-edged. How I say it, what I say, to whom I say, when I say, everything needs to be appropriate. To have that balance, I need to be in balance, where I know the right from the wrong. I know the true from false. So I think a leader should always carry the khanda, knowing it will cut if used in the wrong way. It's connection to my past, but if you're asking for application of the symbol to leadership, I would say, you know, our action can be double-edged. They can hurt somebody, they can help somebody. So we always need to be mindful in what we are doing and to whom and at what time and how.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. That you know, the khanda, there has to be so much love and compassion in our activism, because, as you say, you know, an act can be both harmful or beneficial, and it's the wisdom that we need, and the love and the wisdom that we need in order to fuel that,
to discern the difference.
Yes. And also, you know, that powerful metaphor you gave of the Nishan Sahib being, you know, I've never looked at it that way, that the Nishan Sahib is like saying, here I am, you know, come to me, and you will be safe, and you will be protected, and you will be looked after. That's a symbol of a leader, isn't it? You know, to be visible and to be a symbol of protection, and, you know, that you have gained the trust of others.
Trust. I think that's the word I should use. That people should be able to trust. You know, I run this Sunday school. We have about 700 children there in San Jose, and that takes about 500, 600 families. Some of them have 2 children, and then I have 100+ volunteers. And to everyone, it's very clear to them that they can come to me for any issue, whether it's for their child's study, whether it's for their child's college admission, whether it is that they have an issue at home with in-laws, with husband, or they're going through a divorce, or whatever it is, they're being abused. And I always tell them, I have 1 mouth and 2 ears. And they always say, between you and me. And I always say, you know, I am just here to listen to you if you want to speak anything to me. I have no business of telling anybody what's happening in your life, other than if I can do something and you would like me to do something, I will do it. So, you have to earn people's trust and not betray them. And this gets you so much goodwill in society, in your community, in your life. I just love my life, the way I live it, the way, I am going to be 65 soon. And people who are 40, 45-year-old, they call me Ma, they just want to call me mother, Ma, which I am honored to be for them. So I think, yeah, trust, you nailed it. Trust is one thing you need to have about you, around you, in you. So everybody wants to be with you and work with you and let you in their space.
Yeah, and finally, that thing about innovation, what I meant by that, yes, I know that when we read the Gurbani, we feel connected with the gurus when we read the Gurbani. But in terms of leadership, it's creating, as educators, we have to create an education system that is relevant, that is valuable, that is, meets the needs of those that we serve. And if we use the systems that we have been using like for 50 years, 60 years, they might not be relevant now. So that requires innovation, doesn't it? We have to
absolutely, yeah.
Create something new. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Ji. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. So
Wow.